Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I want to get into a couple questions from the community that I'll go through my comment section. I'm going to answer questions that people have left. If you leave your question and I answer it and you leave your IGN, I will send you a thank you afterwards. Now, before I do that though, I recently recorded a video where I talked about the end of season and it's going to be out in by the time you see this video, it will already be out. But it's like one of the things you can do at the end of the season to take advantage of growing what you're doing here is recognizing that at the end of the season there's a new supply of cards that come onto the marketplace because new payouts have been received by players of the game, right? Especially reward cards. And with that in my mind, I come home from work and the first thing I do here is check out the market and I see, look at these Naga Assassins, max level, max level, max level. We're talking $2.42 per card. I'm buying all of those. That's 400 copies of them. I got DEC to burn, 16,000 DEC. Yes, please. That DEC came to me from playing the game on the last season and in the season chest of the two accounts that I personally run. So it's literally the game paying me to buy cards. And then those cards are substantive enough that they can almost certainly rent for something. So I come over to Peak Monsters. I can go to my card, log in, Infidel1258, keychain, my cards, and then we'll go, what's that card called again? Naga Assassin. This was the reason I selected that one for the market, by the way, is because it was the cheapest. So I went max level. I want to look at max level cards, and it was $2.42. The Exploding Rats is also the exact same price. And so this is interesting in the same way. If you notice that the price is literally the price of power. Like I could buy this card and burn it and it would be breaking even. So if you want one strong indicator that the card you're purchasing is really affordable, that's one of the best indicators. That the power exceeds or equals the price of purchase tells you that that thing is practically free. And in the long run, that thing is going to go up, up, up. Definitely, I want that card. See, this one's only 20 cents more, but I'm willing to be patient. I don't need to rush these things. I buy them when they're dirt cheap. And so I'm going to buy that one too. So end of season, that's the time to strike. But I want to move in now to two questions I saw from the, somebody already bought that one. Somebody already purchased it. That's okay. Go market. Yeah, I want to move into a time of answering some questions from the audience. And I saw a couple that were interesting to me. Here it is. Okay. So I'm going to answer two questions. One's about SPS and one's about Conqueror Jacek, the newest Fire Legendary Summoner. Price prediction on Jacek, we'll do that last. And SPS, we're going to talk about that. The SPS topic is probably big enough it could almost be its own video. But I don't have I'd be lying if I said I have a deep understanding of the white paper for SPS, the print issuance, and the plan for it. So I know superficially that for 6 years in total, they will be issuing SPS. We've already gone through a year of that. We've got 5 years left. And then theoretically, there's no more print of SPS ever. And in this comment, Mirko comments on that. And he says, look, Dwayne, you're really bullish on SPS, but here's the thing, like you're assuming there won't ever be any more after that period. And that might be true, but it might not be. So he's challenging some of my assumptions. I want to talk about that. We're going to answer this question. We'll read and answer his question as best I can. And then we're gonna answer this issue of Jacek price prediction. We'll finish the video there. Okay. So Mirko Rampul says, yeah, burned SPS is out of max supply. But if the DAO ever voted, it could be brought back into circulation technically. So burned SPS is out of max supply, and there's a burning process that we go through, and he's saying it can be brought back. I guess that's technically true because he says there is no cap, there's no hard-coded cap for the number of SPS. That is true. I've heard Aggie and Yava talk about how at the end of the SPS print issuance at that 6-year time frame, there may be a call by the community to say, let's keep offering new inflation of SPS, meaning new tokens of SPS being printed thereafter to pay off the validators who are going to continue to hold this system, running. And so there is no hard-coded cap. That's true. Theoretically, the supply could grow. I don't know if this is technically true, that the burned SPS could be brought back into circulation. I don't know if I would phrase it that way, but I think his point is right. It seems like he's saying, look, the DAO, the governance, which is us, those who hold SPS tokens, could vote to essentially increase the SPS max supply either in 6 years or even sooner. For whatever reason, if we agreed cumulatively and our weighted vote decided that we wanted to say double the production of SPS, we could. Now, I sincerely doubt that will ever happen. That maybe in 6 years they might say, let's give some 2 or 3% inflation to pay the ongoing expenses of the validators. That seems almost probable. But he says in here, that's a problem 5 years away. And I would agree with that sentiment. It's like tomorrow's problem. But I would comment a bit further and say, Aggie had suggested that some of the money in the DAO would ultimately, which is a decentralized autonomous organization, and it's holding $15 million or $20 million worth of cryptocurrency right now, most of which is SPS, and that number will grow when they sell Rift Watchers and so on. When they sell more validator nodes, that number will grow. And as those millions and millions of dollars of SPS continue to grow, and then as SPS appreciates, it's $15 million now based on a 7-cent SPS. But what if SPS is 50 cents? That number grows dramatically. Potentially you could say 10x. So 15 million could be $150 million worth of money in that DAO, and we could use that through a vote and a governance approved process to then pay our validator nodes, our validator operators, moving forward after the 6 years of print. So that bank account is itself a potential option for paying this 5 year away problem, paying the validators so they continue to operate. That's one solution. Another alternative is that we could vote to burn that money, and that would increase the price of each SPS token by way of reducing supply. Maybe that's worth considering. I kind of doubt that will ever get voted on, but maybe. And I think this is worth thinking about. Is where I would finish my comment on this. I would say his point is valid in many respects. It is true that the SPS token is not hard capped at whatever 3 billion or whatever it was capped at. It could be increased. Secondly, it might make sense to increase it, especially at the end of the 6 year period where they issue all of it and then they want to continue to pay the validators. We'll have to cross that bridge when we get there, but there's some interesting things to think about even now, such as I already pointed out that DAO is going to grow in both nominal number of SPS, so how many SPS are inside that DAO, as well as how much that each SPS and the total SPS is worth. So that kitty or that bank account, which we can collectively control, may well satisfy the problem he's illustrating. And so worth talking about, worth understanding. I'm not the expert on this issue, but I'm going to say that this is something we should all be aware of, and also might have an answer for itself in the form of the DAO being that bank account we draw from. And that wouldn't itself be a final decision either, because that would carry us for another year or two, and then inflation might still be a conversation in 6-7 years from now. It's so hard to tell, but none of this changes my kind of confidence and positivity around SPS, but it's still worth talking about. So thank you, Mirko. Send you a little something. Layer, and then we will finish. I have talked about Conqueror Jacek, but the next commenter was asking me, like, what's my price prediction? And he felt I was quite accurate with respect to with respect to the most recent legendary summoner from the white team, whose name escapes me right now, Wraith. I said 20 to 30, or I said 30 to 50 bucks, and it's around 22 bucks right now. And so, I mean, I'm gonna say, I expect Jacek to be in the same range. Like 30 bucks makes sense to me, but I would argue that if Wraith is 20 bucks now, I would argue that Jacek should come out of the gate and be roughly the same price as Wraith. And so you might see it come out around 30 or 50 bucks at launch because there's limited supply. And then you might see Conqueror Jacek dip back down. And let's just look at him while we're talking about him. Splinterlands. Eye candy. So we might see Jacek come out of the gate and be $30 to $50 while there's limited supply. And then quickly you'll see new supply dropped on the market and that price will drop. And I wouldn't be surprised if it fell below Wraith, like call it 18, 19, 20 bucks. And then slowly kind of find a new equilibrium in that $20 range or maybe $25 range. But I really believe this card is worth far more than that. I think both Wraith and Jacek are exceptional legendary summoners, and I think they both merit like a $50 price tag in the kind of medium term range. The utility they're offering puts them up there in the more competitive summoners of the legendary nature with this sort of these sort of stats and abilities. And so I would argue that 50 bucks is like a decent price. And if you want to just look at kind of some of the other legendary summoners so you can have a sense of comparison, let's look at the fire team and go regular only, legendary. Actually, let's not go fire. Yeah, let's go fire only. So, I mean, Wraith is $21, Chansey is $64, and Peak Rider $89. Now, these ones are far more rare in terms of number of cards that exist, and therefore their prices are higher. But this card is at least in the same range of competitiveness. And while they're different in sort of utility and usefulness, I would argue that they each have their place. And yet Wraith is in the conversation for probably the best white life summoner there is. I think he's in the conversation. And the same with Conqueror Jacek, who will slip in here, right? I would say Jacek and his +2 speed. The scatter shot's interesting. The +2 speed. What's his other function? Of course, I forget. +2 speed, piercing. Of course, piercing. I love this card, man. I love this card. And especially Jacek with all the blasts that exist in that fire team, I really think it's going to be a great fit for that red team. I would say it's definitely better than Plato Emberstorm, and he's a $100 card. And I would say that it's in the Jotun is obviously powerful. But I would say if Jotun went a heads up against a Jacek, I would say Jacek and his speed and that scatter shot would allow you to dodge the taunt. And if Jotun is playing an archery play, most of those archery monsters are going to have 3, 4, 2, 1 health. And so scatter shot with your own blast is going to obliterate. That's the word. English is hard. Going to obliterate Jotun. And I really think the speed is what matters more. I think speed is more meta than blast or than archery buff or than the heart buff. So I actually think that Jacek is going to be the best fire summoner. Now, context always matters. Jotun is still amazing. Emberstorm is still amazing in certain contexts. But the conversation is worth having, and Jacek is within the conversation. And so 20, 30 bucks is going to be, in my mind, an absolute steal for the functionality you'd be getting. I think in the medium term range, it's worth probably a $50 price tag. And I think in the long run, these legendary summoners are going to be, $100. But that might be 3-4 years away. And so that would be my view. And maybe one or two of them And it's hard to say because there's this constant evolution, and Rift Watchers is going to bring a bunch of new cards, and they might change the power dynamics of, say, a Wraith or a Jacek by introducing some new synergies that we can't imagine. So it's too difficult to truly predict, but one or two of these legendary summoners from Chaos Legion will be meta defining. It might be Wraith. He's amazing. It might be Jacek. He's amazing. It's going to depend on the synergies that exist and that grow from the new monsters that are coming from new reward cards that we're going to expect in the near future, as well as Rift Watchers and every card that will be incorporated from that new booster set. So the meta continues to evolve, and it's possible that Wraith comes more and more into the core of that meta, and same with Conqueror Jacek. Regardless of whether there is more movement towards their kind of camp, I would argue these are exceptional legendary summoners, and I'm very hopeful that at least one or two of these legendary summoners we're going to see in the remaining 5 airdrops from Chaos Legion are going to be among the new meta-defining summoners. And I like the odds of Wraith and Jacek being in that conversation. So $20 to $30 at the start, $50 medium range, $100 long range. And those price targets would, in my mind, apply to a Wraith also because of the caliber of performance we see with this card. But today I really wanted to just answer that comment specifically around Conqueror Jacek. I believe I have spoken about this card and my price predictions. Frankly, these numbers I'm saying to you will apply, generally speaking, to all of the new legendary summoners that are going to be coming out. But we can revisit the conversation, and we need to revisit that conversation as we learn about the new legendary summoners, because their respective abilities will speak into and may perhaps change my outlook on any one of them in particular. So thank you guys for the comments and the questions. That one from Parham. No IGN, Parham. Make sure you leave your in-game name, and I'll send you a little thank you afterwards. But guys, I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you so much for your time and attention. God bless.